Hello everyone! In today's video, I'm going to be creating a double spread layout with the new Floral Charm Collection. This is one of the new DSPs that got released with the July online exclusives. I'm just going to fan them out on my desk right here so you can appreciate the beautiful colors within this paper pack. Let me zoom this out. So it's a combination of, you have this Mossy Meadows, Timid Tiger, Berry Burst, Blackberry Bliss, and Night of Navy. Oh, and then this beautiful, pretty peacock color. So I'm just going to fan everything out right here. But I really liked this flower collection because I tend not to gravitate too much to flower collections because I feel like I have quite a bit already. But I love the colors that was in this paper pack because some of the papers almost lean a bit more winter or fall. So I feel like you can do a lot with this. And I definitely appreciate the smaller pattern more. I feel like it's definitely more versatile to use for just some random photos that you might have. So I'm just going to scooch this over and show you guys the photos I want to scrapbook in today's layout. So we took a trip with our moms recently to Blowing Rock, and we had a couple of photos that we took with this really beautiful gazebo. And immediately I noticed that we were kind of all wearing these like aqua teal color clothing. So I really want to be using this beautiful paper that has like kind of sprigs in the background, and then the flip side is this like incredibly gorgeous rose pattern, and I love the tones in this. So you have some Mossy Meadows, some of that pretty peacock, but also lighter tones of that, and then Timid Tiger, and again there's some lighter and darker tones of that, and I think that just looks really beautiful. So I'm gonna grab two Versamats, just some white cardstock. All right, so what I want to do in today's layout is, since a lot of these photos I have are kind of in landscape mode, I want to have one focal page with this 5x7 photo, and then I'm not too sure if I'm going to incorporate this one since it's kind of a lot of the same, so I'm just TBD on that photo. But then I do want to have both of the photos that we were together, all four of us, because we don't actually have a lot of photos with the four of us together, probably going across this way. So what I want to do is just incorporate some horizontal strips with the beautiful pattern paper that we have. So I'm thinking of having these like teal strips up on top, at the bottom, and at the top of our layouts going across that way. These are just cut down to approximately 1 inch just because I wanted enough paper so that I could just stick something on top of it if I needed to. So I want something like that. And then I want like a smaller strip of our pattern paper going across the top, but enough of the teal still showing because I think that's such a beautiful color. And it really complements all the colors that we were wearing that day. So I'm just gonna scooch this up. Have this here and have that here. So I think that looks really nice because it just pulls the focus to the photos still, but I love how we still seeing a lot of that pattern paper. That's just so pretty. And then I was going through my stash because when I was looking at this, normally I always do a white base, but in this case, I just feels like it falls flat a little bit. And I have two options. So the first one I found is this beautiful apple spice color. I don't know if, this is not available anymore, but this was introduced via Stampin' Up from Close to My Heart. It's kind of this like very dark red brown, and the color complements these tones so nicely because it kind of leans more towards the darker shades that are in here. You could definitely also do Timid Tiger if you want to keep it very light, but I was thinking that would look nice just popped in the back just because it complements the flowery tones really well. So something along these lines, and then it just makes all these colors pop even more. And I do really like that. The only thing is it does pull a lot of attention to this darker color. So I want to introduce maybe elements of it, but maybe not like a full strip. But I do really like that. It's just maybe a little bit too, for me, since this was still the summer period, I think I would prefer this for maybe a more wintry layout. just because now it's leaning very warm. So what I was thinking of doing is I'll definitely still incorporate elements of this paper in our layout. But I was going through all the other papers, and there's this like really beautiful green, almost like a painted effect paper in the paper pack. And some of that mossy meadow green is corresponds really well with the leaves in this paper. So I'm just gonna scooch that down here just to show you guys. And I think this is the way I want to go, because that way it still feels summery and light, but I can incorporate some of that apple spice colors as like accent elements, but it not feeling like maybe too warm or too wintry. And I really like how this looks. I think that looks really, really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut down our strips and put everything down just so we have kind of our base pieces. And then since there's a lot of green in this photo, I don't want that to get lost with the green background. So I'll definitely matte this with just some white cardstock. I'll show you guys that effect, because I feel like that definitely makes a big difference for your photo. So I really like this. So I'm gonna just put all our base pieces down. I'll have the green background, and I'll also have just some strips of white for behind these photos as like a same little photo mat as right here. All right, so we've got all our individual pieces adhered down. The only thing I did add is just a little bit of this mocha shimmer strip in between the layers. I liked how that added detail just provided a little bit of glitter. I like how it brings in back a little bit more of that darker color. And then with our embellishments, I feel like it will tie in very nicely. So in terms of embellishments, I'm going to be using the Charming Day stamp and die set that's part of this suite. And I really like the individual dies that this has. So it has like a couple of standalone dies, and then it also has this beautiful stamp set that you have the coordinating die to cut that out. And then there's like a smaller flower too. And I'm going to be using these in today's layout. I did want to show you guys this die, how that looks like, because it's really beautiful. And then you can also just die cut out like the 3 flowers in another color and just like stick it on top of here. But in today's layout, I'm going to be using the die or stamp and die set, and I colored in the flowers with some colored penciled as well as Stampin' blends, because I really like how that looks. I had also done one with the Stampin' blends, if I can find it, which is this one, which is also really pretty. I just feel like this matches kind of the vibe of this paper a lot better, that very soft, almost like watercolored effect. You could probably also just like watercolor these and then have a very similar effect as the flowers. This I felt was just a little bit too bright. So I'm going to go with the penciled images. And to form my little clusters, I'm going to be adding some circle elements, and I used some dies I have. These are some old dies, so I used these circles to die cut out a couple of these circles in that apple spice color, and I'm going to be adding that to our photo clusters up here. I want like a smaller one here tucked in, and then I'm going to have another cluster down there. But I also have these really nice little circle elements in that wood grain effect from the Country Woods paper. So I might be adding something in as well. I'm not too sure, just like an added element right here. Debating on that, but I'm gonna just scooch this to the side. So I've added the third circle right here. Let me move the light so we can see that better. So I've added the third circle here. So I like that that forms our base for our clusters. And then I cut out a bunch of sprigs with a little bit of a combination of different dies. So I'll pull them up. So I use the golden greenery dies to cut out these more like sprig looking pieces. And then I use the textured florals for these 2 dies, like the eucalyptus and these little more detailed dies. And then I also use the dies from Charming Day, which is this piece right here, and it's like a very delicate little sprig with little berries, to cut out a couple more. And I cut that out from a couple of different colors. So I have just some random greens I had laying around in my stash, like a darker green, which is very similar to Mossy Meadows. This pretty peacock color. This is sage. So I got some sage from Close to My Heart. And then this is mist, if I'm not mistaken. Or I think it's mist, or it's Lost Lagoon. That could also be it. So just a combination of a little bit of everything. So I want to start creating my clusters. I'm just going to dry fit everything just so you guys can see what I want to add. In the next clip, I'm just going to go ahead and dry fit our 3 clusters. So I'm using all the die cut elements I had shown earlier, and I've tried to stay mindful to incorporate each color in the 3 clusters, just because I liked how that corresponded with the pattern paper. Something you don't see me do in this clip is that bottom cluster that you see on the right-hand page. You'll see it after a while already that the sprigs that overlap that circle, it just looks really busy with the background paper, and I do feel like it goes lost a little bit. So I did cut up a couple of the die pieces so I could kind of scooch them under a little bit more, and then I also pulled our circle element down just so more of the sprig or die cut elements rest on that apple spice die and it just doesn't look too busy with the background paper. All right, so we kind of have a draft of our little clusters done here. I still need to stick everything down. But before I do that, I did want to say these I stamped with apple spice, which is that same color as the paper. And then so color these in with some colored or pencils. And then what I do want to add is a title right here. So I used the alphabet dies from Stampin Up, so they're this like long strip, and I just cut this out of like some rose gold paper, and I think I'm just gonna put that right here, just a location of where we were. So I'm gonna build this little title because it just fits right on this little green piece of paper we have, and I like the contrast with the rose gold. We're just gonna spell out our Blowing Rock title. There we go, so we got our title down. Let me bring that up a little bit closer so you guys can see. And then I also forgot to mention that this little cluster, I actually cut off the leaves for this one so it's not as big, because I did want that apple spice color to come through. And I'm probably gonna ink up these edges. I also want something really small up here, so I was thinking of incorporating some tags. I got a couple of tags right here. Now I'm not too sure about this wood color because I was thinking of maybe incorporating some of these circle elements as well to have like a little cluster, but I just don't want to take away too much of this beautiful like flowery pattern. So I could do something like this, but I just don't feel like that's super balanced. So I'm going to quickly ink up the edges for this little tag topper, just so there's a bit more contrast and this piece is not just like one tone. And then I might also put a little circle topper on there, but I just want to see how that looks because I do have my photos stuck down, but I should be able to just scooch this under there. So like a tag like here, maybe a little bit more to the right. And then I have this little wood tag, which I do like. I do like that warm color with this. Let me just scooch that behind if we like that. I do think that looks really nice just to have something up here, and then we can have some ribbon sticking out. So I'm probably going to keep that there. And then I'm just debating on these additional pieces. Now, for some of the sprigs that come over the circle, this might look nice just to have a little bit more of a solid tone, because I don't love when the sprigs come over top of your busy flower pattern. So this also kind of helps break that up a little bit. Let me just scooch that here. I do like that because that creates just a little bit more of, scooch that in a little bit more of that neutral tone or solid color for our little cluster. So I might add that here, and then just for some symmetry I might add this one up here too. maybe something like this. I think that's cute because it's not super noticeable, but it does help balance these clusters out a bit more. So I like these. So the only thing I'm going to do when sticking it down is I'm going to ink up, just using some apple spice, the edges of our circles. And I'm going to go ahead and just stick everything down, and I'll be right back to add some more embellishments. All right, so we have all our clusters are stuck down on our page. I'm actually going to scooch this in just a little bit. When I'm looking at it, it's maybe a bit too much centered, but yeah, so everything's stuck down. The only thing I do want to add is just a couple more embellishments, like not too much since the clusters are intense, so we don't want to go too far. But I went through my stash and I found these like little from Close to My Heart, what are they called? Like little die cut labels. So I'm gonna take a few of those, and I also have the same in like this like wood color, which I like how warm that is. And I'm just gonna scooch these in here to maybe add some stamping, or I'm not sure if I want to do the wood or the green color. Let me just add that in to see what would look best. So we could either do just the wood and the green, or we could just do two of the little green die cuts, because I do like the sage coming back, but I like the wood and the green. So I went through my stash and I found two stamp sets that I'm probably going to use. One is called This Happened, and I like the little date that I'm probably just going to add in here just so I know when this was. And then the other are all these little sentiment sayings, and I like this Captured Memories. So I'm just going to take that out and probably just stamp that on. So Captured Memories is really thin and small, so I'm going to use that to stamp it on the little, I'm just going to scooch that over here, on this little wood element. I'm going to try and stay as much to the left as possible, so that I can scooch a little piece under. And just put that there. And I'm going to use apple spice just so we stay in the same color family. Okay, so I'm just going to lightly press down. Actually, don't know if I have used this stamp or not, but I think it should be okay. And then I'm going to stay as much to the left and center as possible. Just hold that there for just a second. Oh, that looks really cute. We have our Captured Memories, so I can still like ever so slightly push that under there, so that looks nice. And then on this one, I'm going to add the date stamp, because otherwise I won't have any reference when this actually occurred. So there's a couple of fonts. You have a really small one. I kind of like this bigger one or this one. Let me just pull that out. Or I could do this one, which is slightly bigger. I think I'm going to do the bigger one. Just remove that and put that here. I don't think I've used this one, but since it's just a very small stamp, I'm going to go for it. Here. Hold it for a little bit. There we go. That looks really nice. And I'm just gonna use some, I think I'm just gonna write it on there because I don't know if I have a stamp small enough to do our little date right here. Okay, so I just added these two little sentiments right here with the date and then that Captured Memories. So the last thing I'm gonna do is just add some gems, and I'm going to be taking the Neutrals adhesive backed sequins. And in that pack, there's more of these like coppery little gems in there. So those are the ones I'm going to be adding to our little clusters. I'm going to just put a couple throughout, some a little bit like tucked under because I like that effect. Right here, I'm going to put one or two on our tag as well. I like adding that in there. And then a couple small ones in this cluster right here. There we go. Oh, some of these lose the back of the like little glue piece, so you have to be careful when you take it off. You also have the little glue element. There we go. I've just added the last couple of gems to our top little cluster. So I'm going to bring everything up close so you guys can see it better. So we've got a combination of the sprigs and the colors of the paper. We have our 2 clusters on our main page. And then I'll pull this up. We got our little tags up top. Let me bring the light a little bit better. And then we got our little cluster down here with those same colors and some of that Country Woods paper that we've added in. So I think it looks really nice. I feel like this actually was a really quick and easy layout to put together using the coordinating stamp and die set. And again, you could easily switch these up if you prefer to stay just with the die cuts. You could just use the die cuts from the set as well and just stick that down there if you don't want to feel like coloring everything in or just getting the die set. You could easily, that would look really pretty too with this paper collection that has some of that rose gold, or add some different colored paper on the little flowers. So you could definitely do that too if you just want to stick with the die cuts. But yeah, this is the layout using the Floral Charms collection. That's one of the July exclusives. I'll have everything linked down below that is still available, or if I find alternatives, I'll link that down below as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this layout. Please give it a thumbs up if you do. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment down below, and subscribe to my channel if you've been loving my videos. I try to post once a week. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.